officials are ready. The fighters are in the ring, and they are ready. So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to the DJ Scottos What, Why Now podcast, where I'm inviting special guests onto my show to ask them questions about their life and success story. For this episode, I've invited another special guest. We'll be finding out what it was like growing up in Clapham, her new book she's working on called 4 Men, 4 Decades, how she nearly became a radio presenter, being dubbed the voice of the people, being an entrepreneur, and how music has helped her in her life, plus much more. I'm really excited to introduce my special guest today. Let's make some virtual noise for Natasha Anne. Woo!
Woo!
Right, firstly, thank you so much for joining my new podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I felt a bit like, a bit jittery, a bit like, what's this? But feel like that when you do something new, don't you?
You do. And do you know what? What's the sort of a typical day for Natasha? I know you mentioned about Mondays is your rest day, but what's your normal day-to-day stuff?
I live a very gentle life. I like routine and I go to work and I need 8 hours sleep every night. I eat 3 meals a day. I exercise twice a week. Like, it's very, very average day.
No, but that's normal. That's like, normal people do. You can tell normal. That isn't for me. I'm not doing my 3 days and 3 meals a day. I'm doing 3 meals in the morning. So, so don't worry about that. So you've got a normal routine and stuff.
I think I like routine. I think routine makes me feel sort of like safe and grounded and calm, and that's just something that I've always needed. So like, it works for me.
But before we start asking you questions, this is the thing that I always ask. Can everyone make sure you subscribe, you like, you share, you leave comments in the chat?
Yeah.
If you are listening and you do like it, please subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And I do read every single comment, good or bad. So, because the plan is for me to continue doing this in the future. I do want to say as well, this is my 10th podcast.
Ooh.
Which for me is a massive milestone.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, and I never thought I'd get past 5. So that's why I thought I'd invite you on, some of my listeners, some of your friends, for questions that they would like me to ask you that they may or may not know. Plus a few,
my God.
Plus a few questions.
Sneaky little squirrel.
Plus a few questions that are of my own, and I call these like icebreakers before we get into the proper podcast. So, so my first one is if a movie was made of your life, what would it be, and who would you want the person to play you?
I've thought about this. I just cannot relate to myself to actors. I just, maybe Mr. Bean.
Okay, that's different.
I mean, I definitely think it'd be a film of survival and like coming through adversity and like just something really positive ending. But as for who would play me, like,
do you know what? Actually, you could play yourself. You could be yourself in your movie. It could be anybody, but obviously we're going to come on and talk about your book as well. So obviously, maybe one day in the future, when we'll talk about your book in more detail, the movie could be about your book. So, so thank you for answering that. I understand that you like cakes. If you were a cake, which cake would you be?
Tottenham Square. It really is just a very basic situation. It's like what you used to have in school. So you just had like a tray of sponge with a pink icing and all hundreds and thousands. Did you eat that?
I did. Have you ever been told you look like someone famous, and who was it?
I've had a few. When I was about 18, in my late teens, someone said to me I look like Daniela Westbrook. That was pre-drug addiction, thank God. I've had some random ones, like Amanda Holden was one.
I can see that.
Definitely like the head area and nothing from the neck down, just to clarify. There's a couple, that'll do.
Do you know what? I've got to say, Amanda Holden is absolutely spot on. I can see that so much.
Maybe you should wear your glasses, but it's fine.
Seriously, right? Joking aside, you do look like Amanda Holden, by the way. Actually, I think that was a great shout.
Love you.
If you were in a fight and could have 3 people to help you, who would they be and why?
People that I know or famous people?
Both.
I'm just going to go with people that I know. My bestie Rhonda, first time I met her, wouldn't mess with her. But underneath, massive, massive heart. But whoo, can I just have Rhonda?
Yeah, you can have Rhonda.
Just have one.
No. Which DJ would you marry, kiss, and kill?
Oh my God, what a question. Oh, I think we would just literally all marry Danny Gould from Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
I think he knows I'm his #1 fan. Oh yeah, he's in all of me and my friends' camera rolls. We're like, yes, Danny.
Normally kisses who you fancy.
Kiss.
Who you fancy? Who would be the one
As
who's
if
like...
I'm going to tell you that. Like, I don't think I am going to tell you.
Okay. So who'd you kiss though? Take the fancy bit out.
Who would I kiss?
But by the way,
yeah.
you seem to be getting a
Why
bit
don't
red.
you try? I
So
want to tell
one
who I
second,
wanna-
is there something going on here? Are you having a relationship with a DJ or something?
No,
Is this
I think
going
I'm
on?
just like embarrassed, shy person. Oh, I can't think of anyone. Wait, give me a minute.
Or who would you kill
would I
then?
kiss? Oh, I will kiss Mark Knight. Them cheekbones could cut cheese. I would kiss Mark Knight.
Perfect answer. Okay, great answer. I love that. And
Yes.
who would you kill then?
I mean, I'm not killing anyone.
Okay.
I'm not-
So the next question would be, and this came from one of your friends, what would be an ideal first blind date?
Oh, I'd love to know who set me up for these. Like, gotta kill them all after. In fact, that's my answer. I'll kill my friends for these
Okay.
questions. Ideal.
Can I give you a clue?
Go on then.
I'll give you a clue. So when you go out on a first blind date, do you think that you should take your glasses with you when you go on a first date so you could see the person that you're going to meet, right?
I literally pretend that I don't wear glasses,
Right.
and then I'm just blind everywhere. And I
Okay.
did go on a date once, and because I was too proud, I was in we were in like a Thai restaurant, I think, and then they handed me the menu, and to me, it's just like a little white bit of paper. And I had to ask him to read the menu to me, and could have been cute. It weren't. He looked put out. Like, oh.
So I think that's cute.
The right person would have read the menu to me, right?
Yeah.
But I think he was
We thought you couldn't read, basically, like you were.
possibly.
Yeah.
He was possibly
Oh.
paranoid.
Okay.
I think for first blind dates, I think they're so hard, blind dates. Like, I've been on a few, and they are painful.
Really.
And I think the perfect blind date is when you just like you get on and you're relaxed and the person's really nice.
Yeah.
And even if there's like no attraction or whatever, you just both have a nice time. I don't think it matters where. It's always the who, I think.
Okay, so have you ever had a blind date where, or you met somebody where you're in a car park and you go over to the window and then you basically,
Okay.
and you thought that person was your date and you wind down the window and then they that wasn't the person.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest.
So that was one of the questions I got from one of your friends about.
I did go. Oh my God! Right, yeah. So sorry if I screamed in your ear. That is so embarrassing. But I'm just doing geeky shit like this all of the time. That's why I prefer to not leave the house. But yeah, I went for a day, and I was in the car park in my car, and a car pulled up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's it. So I've got out and I've gone over to the car, and the person wound down their window, and I was like, Dave, and he just went, nah. I was like, oh, okay. And I just went back to my car, and I was like, oh, Jesus, like so uncomfortable. And then I WhatsApp noted my friends, and I was like, oh, please, I haven't even started this shit yet, and I'm dying on the inside. So yeah.
Just a quick question though: if he was your blind date, would you have been happy?
I was in such a state of embarrassment that I can't even remember the man's face.
Okay. And was the person that was supposed to meet you in the car park, was he a good blind date?
He was really nice. Yeah,
He was
really
okay.
nice. Yeah, I mean
Cool.
he's practically married now, but you know.
Okay, brilliant. No, so it's
he
obviously
met his forever blind date, and very happy for him.
Oh.
Not about that vibe.
Last question would be: would you rather have more time or more money?
I feel like I've got quite a lot of time at the moment because of age and stuff like that. So I'm going to go more money.
Okay, cool. Oh, great, good answer. So, firstly, thank you to all your friends and people that sent me some questions they would like to ask you. Thank you for that. And I know they were questions that are a little bit taking you a bit out of your comfort zone, but I appreciate you being really honest. So, right. So, before we start talking about what you're doing now, I do like to start by going back to what it was like growing up as a child. So, I understand you were from Clapham. What was it like growing up there?
I mean, pretty untouched at that time. I mean, now it's really built up. It's cool. There's lots of bars, etc., etc. But I think for me, I didn't have the best time, and my home life was very unstable and like volatile. So yeah, what that does is then it just shapes you for everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty difficult. I had, alcoholism in my household, and yeah, I mean, I was out the door at 15, which is crazy young.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a straightforward, like, simple answer. I mean, I listened to your last podcast, and I thought, God, this is going to be so bipolar to your last guest experience, because he was like, my parents were amazing, so supportive, this, that. I can't relate to that, like, at all. I've been flying solo for a really long time.
Look, everyone's life's different, and I can relate to you because I've had similar upbringings myself, so I know what it was like. But before becoming 15, were there any have you got any, like, kind of memories, some good memories, I guess, growing up as a child before, I guess, friends and going to school?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not all bad, but I feel like we had a lot of fun, like, in our very young primary years. I've got Irish family. We spent a lot of time there, and they spent the whole 6 weeks holiday with us, which was mental. At some points, there was like 7 of us in one room, sort of thing, and we had a lot of fun. We were very Von Trapp before it all went Pete Tong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have some nice beginning stuff, but there was a lot of it. I suppose when I was about maybe 9, it all started going very, like, Pete Tong in my house, and lots of mental health problems and addictions and alcohol and stuff like that. So it's almost like a really nice, wholesome, pretty little house on the prairie start, and then boom, like, just deterioration, and then just chaos. So I feel like I have experienced both.
Yeah,
to a degree.
And you know what, Natasha, we will get into that in a bit more detail in a sec. And I just wanted to ask you, actually, do you have any siblings, and how do they affect your life growing up?
I'm a middle child, but problem is, I've got an older brother and a younger sister. But the problem is, like, because of so much trauma happens in our house, our family did actually just sort of get blasted to smithereens. So I actually I'm in a position now where I don't have parents or siblings, really, and it's been like that for me for, like, quite a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does a lot of these situations. People don't always recover, like, these situations, of addiction, alcoholism, stuff like that. It just really does break families up, and they don't always manage to claw it back. But yeah, we've kind of disintegrated now.
Yeah.
All of us.
and by the way, it's very, not say very, obviously quite common. Obviously, people will relate to this, and there's so many things that you've said so far. I'm definitely keen to find out more about that. When you were a child, what did you think you would be when you sort of growing up?
I really wanted to be an air hostess because I grew up on Dynasty and Dallas and adverts. So it was all really glamorous. And then when I was in secondary school and I had to have, like, careers meeting or whatever that thing is, and we had a chat through, they were like, oh, you'll need to do languages. And I was like, what now? Like, I just got no interest in learning, like, French and Spanish and whatnot. So my dream died in that office. Anyway, turns out not that glamorous. So,
but you know what, though, like, I find that so funny, because everyone I've asked that question to, what they wanted to be at 15 when you have that career meeting, and what they are now is always very, very different. And even my kids will come onto yours and want to be a professional footballer or want to be a rapper, and then things change, right, as your life goes on. Obviously, you did touch a bit about your parents, and again, you've mentioned about the addictions and stuff, and I know that about alcohol and stuff, and we'll talk about your book in a little while, but you mentioned a bit about your dad in there as well, with the sort of glamour side. How much did that affect you, obviously being around that sort of situation every single day? Was it kind of very, very unpredictable?
Yeah, and just a lot of drama all the time, which is just exhausting. And what kids need is just, like, so much calmness, consistency, and nurturing, and that kind of thing. And I just feel like we were living in a war zone. You could come home one day and the bailiffs had been in and stripped our home out. Like, wow. It was so much. I mean, my nervous system was just absolutely battered, and it took me years to rebuild it, actually, or rather repair it.
Sure.
Because when you're young and your brain is young, and it's just like, stress, trauma, stress. It actually affects your your body physically.
Yeah.
And even after I did like a lot of therapy, I did years and years and years of therapy, it got to a point where I had to heal my body as well. Like I was like, yep, done, healed the mind. And then my body was still like triggering to stuff. And I had to do all these other things like trauma workshops and this and that, because it sits in your body, it's trapped in there. And I was like, what's this new hell?
Yeah.
It takes, I really feel for young people, I feel, savagely protective over them adults that had those experiences, because I know that it is forever. And people who don't understand, not their fault, but can have that mentality of, get over it and move on. Oh, how we would love to get over it and move on. But, it takes years of like therapy and work and stuff like that. And it's like a long and bumpy road. So I feel really protective over those people.
Yeah, understandable. And again, if you were to go and talk to Natasha, age 15 now, what would you say to her? Like, and what would you have done differently if you could?
Just what I would say to me at 15, God, like there was I'm not sure there's anything anyone could have said, really.
But going back to that sort of question, and by the way, I know it's difficult because you can't go back in the past. But if you think about where you are today, though, for all the ups and downs and stuff, again, probably at 15 years old, could you see yourself today as 15? So reversed it, but you're 15 years old. Bear in mind all the stuff that you experiencing.
I mean, at 15, I was like, where am I going to live? That's what I was thinking about,
But before 15, sorry, maybe just before 15 then, because I'm thinking about just what was it like, kind of like before you decided, right, you know what, enough's enough. I've got for other reason you had to go. So what was like, again, going through that experience at the time, which you're being very authentic, by the way, and I don't want to go too deep, but knowing what you had to go through then and seeing what it was like, and then having to move out and having to go through the stuff you did, you must be quite proud of yourself, right?
Like at times, yeah, definitely. But this is why I wanted to do this podcast, because it's, you call it's about success and life story. I feel like people that have been through similar experiences, our success is invisible. It's just completely invisible.
Great answer.
And it's really hard because people will be like, oh yeah, I feel like at 50, I still feel the pressure to have achieved stuff with more monetary value, rather than, it's just not, as I said before, like dinner party conversation when you're like, oh yeah, what have you done? Oh, reset all my neural pathways. What have you done? Like, it's just not, nothing's killing the vibe like you speaking, you're like saying something like, so I have to almost just be a bit like, oh yeah, not a lot, like I'm feeling like I haven't achieved anything, because what I feel like I've achieved is not stuff I feel like I can say. Not really.
But you know what, Natasha, this is the reason why people do podcasts, but also you'll be surprised now, I think more than anything, because I feel like it's becoming more of a, especially men as well, like, talking more openly, but where people are still embarrassed, and like, I can relate to you where I would never tell people about my situation because I was embarrassed. Yeah, like you're 14, you're a teenager, you're going to school. What does your mum and dad do for a living? And like, how do you answer that question, right? Do you want to answer that question in a kind of like, what do I want them to hear, or what is the reality? And if you tell me what the reality is, I was worried about maybe what my friends, whether people want to be my friends still.
That is where shame starts getting its claws in. That young, you've started feeling that you've got to hide stuff.
Yeah.
That was how you were made to feel, and that's really tough. But you don't know it at the time. At the time, you're just like, you're just getting the feelings. You're too young to make sense of it, or you're just getting the feelings. And I hid so much stuff.
Yeah.
I used just to bop to school like nothing, and there was absolute war zones going on. And then that's how you start learning how to bury and game face and pretend, and deep down, it's just all bubbling away, isn't it? It's not doing you any good.
And by the way, I love what you just said before. You talked about success. Success isn't money. Success isn't having.
It is. Success is still. But I've got a lot of respect for people that have achieved. I've got respect all day long.
No, what I was going to say was, I mean, not all success is having a blue tick on the end of your name, right? Or having 1 million followers. Success could be you've beat your gambling, or you beat addiction, or
Yeah.
you
Oh, of
basically
course.
you've got through
That's
and you've got a
harder.
job. You've got we'll come on to your business in a little while, but your success could be, I've set my own business. That's a massive thing. But to some other people, that might not be success to them.
Yeah, I
Success
feel
could
like
be
society likes to see all the shiny things, but when I go out to work in the morning and there's a guy, the maintenance guy that's sweeping the block down, I always like to say morning, make a bit of a fuss of him and stuff. And I think, you know what, at the end of the day, you have got a job. I don't know where you've come from or how much it took for you to get out of bed this morning and come and do this job. Like you just got to have some like empathy and respect for people and just kill judgment. I don't know what he's been through. Maybe this is as much as he can like do because but at least he's got independence and he's got a wage. And I think like respect to you, mate. Do you know what I mean?
But do you know what is free and what's easy? Excuse me, how important this can actually be. Just saying, how are you? How's it going?
Yeah, and meaning it as well.
Meaning it, yeah. Exactly.
Like when I say to somebody, "How are you?" Like I'm really asking, "How are you?" You know, it's I really want to know how you are.
Yeah, and
just like mean it. You know.
Yeah. So we will probably touch on a bit more of this stuff throughout, but one of the things that that I did want to talk to you a bit more about as well, and then we'll get into a bit more deeper and stuff, is about your new book that you're working on, right? And
new book, it's the only book, but so it's my first book.
Your first book, and you know what? You were very kind to let me, because it's a book that's still a work in progress, and you're still working on it.
I'm tinkering about with it, but I'm 90% there now. I'm just tying up the loose ends.
And you know what? You gave me the opportunity to read a few chapters, and I have to say, and not because we're doing this, how impressed I was that what you've done so far, and you can talk about it in a minute, but you should be really proud of you, by the way, because how you started that from scratch to now. Well, big props to you, because that is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So before I sort of talk about your book and how amazing it is, I think it'd be great for you just to explain to people that are listening about the book, why you did it, and kind of like where you are in that. And I've got a few questions about about some of the things that I've read so far.
Okay. Well, it's called 4 Men, 4 Decades, and it's about the 4 relationships that I had, like one in my teens, one in my 20s, one in my 30s, and just at the start of my 40s. Basically, what it is about what happens when you go through like childhood trauma, like physical and mental abuse. And then what happens when you go into your adult life and try and have romantic relationships, carrying all this madness with you. And it is the journey between how it started, how I evolved, and just all the mess in between, which there's loads. So, yeah.
So what obviously you mentioned about what it was about, but why did you do it? What made you just suddenly thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this? When did you start it?
I've actually been writing notes for years and years and years, and I didn't know what it was going to be or why. I just knew there were certain things I had to get down. So I ended up with this like big book of stuff, and I was like, what? I don't know what this is. And then it was the book. So it just like happened organically. And then I think I didn't have the headspace to do anything with it before. I've got 2 sons. I was a single parent for a really long time. I had a job, I had a business. Oh my God, I literally felt like a headless chicken for about a decade. So I think to be able to put something like that together, you do need to feel in a bit of a calmer space. And until that space opened up, I couldn't have done it properly, I don't think. But now I'm 50 and I've got fuck all better to do. My life's so much like easier because my 2 adult sons, they've got jobs now, they're grown up and whatnot. I had the headspace to start it, and I thought, right, whatever this is, I'm going to start putting it together.
And you know what? Just while we talk about your sons, and we'll come back to the book actually. What's been the proudest moment been so far for them both? So far,
there's no way I could pick one. I couldn't pick one proud moment. Like I'm proud of them every day. Like I worship them. Like it's abnormal how much I worship them. They are perfect. Oh. Obviously they're not, but in my eyes they are. So I could never pick one proud moment. There's just too many. So my eldest is 26.
Yeah.
He has a humour so dry
Okay.
It's unreal. Like he could just like uproar a table of people like in a sentence. And then my youngest, he's 21, and he's just they're just both so funny. Like they bring so much joy into my life.
So they have a good relationship. They get on really, really well. What's their relationship
Yeah,
like?
I mean, they go through stages because they're not under the same roof now. But as kids, they were brilliant.
Yeah,
they just cracked on. They were so good together. I don't think they even. I think they only actually even had one fight.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they weren't particularly physical kids.
I'll swap them. I'll swap your two kids for my three then. Bloody hell! It's like WWE every bloody day. So
I just think I did. I just think I tried to keep it like. I tried to not let it escalate to that. I don't really like I know it's normal, but I don't really like the whole hitting thing. But they never. And there's a 5-year age gap. But there was a time when my youngest was just constantly winding up my eldest, then like ridiculous, torturing him. And then if Harry hit Elliot would run to me and be like, "Hey, hit me!" And then obviously I would be like, "Don't you hit him? You're bigger than him." And then one day to pull my youngest aside, I said, "Listen, you're on your own now, mate. Because I see what you're doing. You're not torturing him until he loses it, and then you grass. You're on your own. If you push him to them limits, you're going to have to take consequences." And he did like rein it in a bit because I couldn't protect him anymore. But they find their own way, like with their relationships, and it changes in adult life as well.
Obviously, reading the book, it's used to mention about when they were getting older. Your older one with dad, and then you had younger ones with you. They lived together differently. I'm not sure what age that was, but they moved one with your dad.
Yeah, the student accommodation was so bad. Like he just hated it. And at that time, like his dad lived closer to the uni than me, so he ended up staying with his dad, and now they're like two pigs in shit, them two. Now they just live like two peas in a pod,
right?
And they quite like it. But I liked that for him. I liked that he would have that time.
Yeah,
I think because he had 2 years at uni away, I got to adjust. Whereas I think if he would have just done the whole, I think I'm going to move in with dad. Like I think I might have got a bit heartbroken about it and possessive, because single parents are really possessive with their kids. They're like my unit, you know. Yeah. But because I got to break away, I got to get used to it when he went off to university. I was much more relaxed about it instead of getting all possessive.
Yeah,
we don't own our kids. We just think we do.
Yeah, and the one thing I was going to say actually from reading from what. The small time I've got to know you, but also reading the few chapters, actually, the one thing that kind of like kept coming up through that was that your hardworking mentality, regardless of like what's going on. Like I think you mentioned about you went back to work after 10 weeks or something to start working again. That's quite unheard of now, I guess, when you're pregnant. Yeah. But you're fighting. You've got to work hard. I'm not sure what age you were when you were a single parent with your boy, but you were working. Like you found a way. Where did that come from, Natasha? Where did you get that from? And how hard was that through that time?
I've had harder times than that, to be fair. I think because I was independent young. So by the time I had been 18, 19, I had my own place and a full-time job done. Because it was either that was, I was like just flying solo then. So I was quite just used to it and used to hard work, used to fighting, like it's just standard.
I saw that. It was a common theme, and even you can relate to that now, that you're that entrepreneur, that kind of like the hard-working person. You do say, the way you sort of explain it is like, yeah, but I just kind of did it. But you know what? There's a lot of people that can't do it. So it just shows you whatever happens. This is what I was talking about earlier about you being younger and stuff. You were fast-tracked and hardened very early. Like most. I've got an 18-year-old boy and he still leaves a bloody milk out, right, and butter everywhere, right. We've got to spend time to tell him where what I'm saying to you is like you had to become an adult. Early,
very early.
And one of the things that you didn't mention earlier, which I thought I read in there as well, which again, a real credit to you, is that when you were having to experience what you experienced, you were still trying to like do what you had to do, but you was also like clean the house. You do all the stuff that a mum would do, right? So you were doing all that sort of stuff, and because basically you were like, someone's got to do it, right? So if your mum's, I hope you know what I'm saying, was obviously experiencing alcohol, she was never really with it as much as she should be. At times when you're on your own, kind of like feeding yourself, but it came across in the book, which I thought was great. Not great, sorry, but to hear how hard that was, that you had to learn to be a mum kind of thing. Stroke, I'm still a child. I'm young.
100%. And oh my God, I could tell you some mad stories, but I'll spare you. I think on a positive note, because I've read a lot of books and I've had a lot of therapy and stuff like that, and always try to find the light in there, because bloody hell, if you don't, you're just going to drown in it. And you do come out with some really good life skills. That's so ridiculous, because you would never choose to learn that way. But and you know what? So many people don't come out the other side. So I highly wouldn't recommend that. As
another success.
A method of of finding life skills. But I just had no choice. That's it. It's not like, oh yeah, amazing, you learnt this and that. I was forced in.
You've got probably loads of examples where it's been bloody bad. But do you know what? One thing you have got is you've got some amazing achievements, like of success, to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
You've absorbed all this information from therapy and people, and some people are not very good at changing. But whatever you've done as kind of by pitching baby steps, by the way, because I can't imagine you've gone half an hour and gone, yes, I'm back. I'm like the perfect person. And like you say, it's like something that's gonna, it's like something. It's a work in progress. It's all going to be. It's there forever, right? Like you mentioned earlier. So let's go back to the book as well, because like there were some really funny things, by the way, that I gained. It's nice.
I'm so glad you laughed.
No, do you know why? Because
my stuff's so heavy all the time. I'm just
but it's life. Things in there which you talk about your partner, the people at the time, and some of the things that they did. And I was like, oh my God, I've done that a few times.
No,
I'm like, oh my God, I've done that a few times.
Oh, I love it. I need to know about this afterwards.
Yeah, and you think yourself like, oh my God, does my partner at the time felt like that? So I could
probably.
This is why the book was amazing for me to start to improve myself. By the way, just 2 chapters in. So get back to your book. And by the way, like I mentioned earlier, I've read about 3 chapters, but I wanted to start on going back to, sort of the early part of the chapters. And I guess decade 1 was when you met Matthew. And obviously, again, guys, you can, when you get the book comes out, you can go into a lot more detail and find out a lot more about it. But what were the highlights with Matthew? Before we talk about maybe some of the challenges that you guys had at the end.
Very, very few highlights, hon. Very few. But I think probably the only good thing that came out of that situation was that he took me to the rave scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's arguable, isn't it? That is it a good thing that someone introduced you to drugs?
Yeah.
Probably not a good thing. But I did find music through him, and I do feel like you meet people for reasons, and I think he was my vehicle sort of into the rave scene, because I really, really loved it, and it felt like home, and I loved the whole community feeling, and then I ended up liking that more than him.
Yeah.
So I was like, actually, I'm going to keep this, but you can go. So
what was the age difference with you guys?
So I think I was 17 and he was 19.
Yeah. But as a 17-year-old, were you a mature 17-year-old?
No. Oh my God, listen. I went to a convent school, a girls' convent school. Like there was a nun waiting for you around every corner. Like, what are you doing? So when I came out of school at 16, I was almost living like parallel lives, because I had a chaotic situation at home, and then I was in a strict situation at school. Man, I was a whole other personality then. So just like I think I still am that person, a mixture of extremely naive, and extremely old at the same time. They run along together, and I'm still like that today. Really, really wise and had to grow up too quick, and really naive at the same time. It's very confusing for me.
Do you know what though? Explain to people like that don't know what a convent school is about, because obviously, what's a good thing? Right,
Catholic school run by nuns, basically. Like, we weren't even allowed to roll a sock down. It was like super strict. Because I came from an Irish Catholic family, and really confusing to be in such a strict environment when everyone else was just breaking all 10 commandments every single day. So you're like, oh, so so these are the rules, but you're not doing any of them, but I have to. And what? Like, it's just all a bit of a madness. Yeah.
So would you, if you had a daughter though, would you get your daughter to go to a school like that, or would you, or to a normal school?
No, absolutely not. I felt really passionate that I wanted my kids to go to a mixed school.
Yeah.
Because I literally came out at 16 and like I just hadn't really been around boys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so cringe. But I'm still a little bit like that now. Like I'm so shy. Like I am painfully shy, to be honest. And I really felt strongly that I wanted my two sons to be in a mixed school so they can just like get over themselves. Do you know what I mean? And they did. And I feel like it's more healthy and more balanced. What I feel like almost like attracts like. I mean, I grew up in an environment where there was no boundaries. So then my first boyfriend had no boundaries either, because that's you go together like magnets, and you're just both messy, but in different ways. So with him, like my first experience with having a boyfriend was someone who was really possessive and controlling. And I was around unhealthy stuff all the time. So it's just like pretty normal to me. But obviously there was still a part of my brain going, this is a bit naughty, stuff like that. So I was just really timid and meek and just used to pretty much do as I was told and go along with everything. And then I got sick of it. So I got like a couple of years in. And then I just had enough. And then I broke up with him, and he told everyone that I was a lesbian.
Yeah, nice.
And the thing is, these days, wouldn't bat an eyelid at that. That ain't a thing. But
how did that affect you then?
30 plus years. Well, it was like he was just trying to like turn everyone against me and stuff. And yeah, the whole thing was really depressing and sad.
And again, back then, so obviously you're
I
back
got over it.
1920. So after that, then I guess, were there a time before you started to feel like yourself and have a bit of fun? And then when did you
meet?
For
a little while, but it just never lasted, because when you're carrying certain things, you can only go so far, and then they just disable you.
Yeah. And then then we came into the next, we're coming into now to the next sort of decades.
So how long after was that? Yeah, it's a few years. It's probably, 16, 19, maybe like, actually not that long, maybe like 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Okay. In those 2 years though, how different did you become as yourself? And were there things in that 2 years that kind of helped you in your next relationship, if that makes sense?
I mean, I'd love to say yes, but the actual opposite happened for me.
Right.
Because I was in the rave scene like a lot, and I think my system was like quite weak because of, the past and stuff like that. I actually got very low. So that was a really low time. So instead of being like, free from possessive boyfriends, reclaim life, yes, and all happy that it wasn't, I went that other way. Like the drugs started to set the top. I was never ever a heavy drug taker. My system couldn't handle it. But I was born a lightweight. I will die a lightweight. But it didn't take much to take me down, because I think when your system's already like working, all your systems are working so hard all the time, it doesn't take much. So I had the opposite effect. Like I went into a bad place.
Are you happy sharing that? Because in your book you do mention about, obviously there was a time when you hadn't, it kind of sounded like you'd got to that point where maybe not being around was something you probably
100%. Like I definitely hit an absolute bottom. And I just felt really.
How old was you in that?
So I think 19. I think about 19, and I just felt completely and utterly lost in the wilderness, isolated. I felt alone, all that stuff, and that was my one and only attempt at taking life. Yeah.
And you talk about in a bit of detail, which again, people that want to find out more about this should definitely see the book when it comes out. But I think you're great, by the way, to share that, because I think again, people will relate to that, because you do get to that point where you think, I can't see the light out there. I can't see where I'm going next.
Too many challenges, just too many, and no support, and being young.
But what advice would you give to yourself then?
It's hard to think about that. What I would say is that I just think things have got a lot more open and better. It's amazing. There's a lot of really good work going on. There's a couple of accounts on Instagram that I follow. And I have quite a lot of open conversations with other people who've been through similar things, and it is so helpful because you do feel like isolated and alone. And I know there's like a whole mental health awareness revolution going on, but it's just not to be underestimated. Like that could actually save a life. How it was for me then,
There wasn't that, was there?
I might as well have been sat on Mars on my Todd,
Yeah.
because I didn't know even how to start a conversation about what was happening. I didn't know. I wouldn't have known where to even begin.
Yeah.
I just floated off and was like, this is out of my hands, out of my control.
You didn't have your mum, did you? You'd have a mum to go to. Someone to give you a cuddle and tell you it's going to be all right. So you were doing all these things on your
and just no one to even talk to, because I didn't even have the words to explain what the fuck, like not even to begin. So I feel like there's so much more healthier conversations going on now. It's so open. Like
it's great.
I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll come on to how you, because again, like I know we get still a little bit deep here, but I think people need to understand actually, like, you can talk to people now. I know it's easier now, but having you
much healthier now.
Going around, giving your arm around to that 19-year-old going, look, don't worry, like, you know, I've got you. I'm gonna help you, like, sort of thing. But you somehow, thank God, you know, and I think you mentioned your dad's.
Yeah, I did take an overdose of tablets, and then close but not quite enough, and then was just in bed like really sick for about a fortnight. Just couldn't really function or do anything. And then my dad, who I lived with at the time, he didn't know what was wrong with me, and he just thought I'd flu. And I just didn't even have it in me to say this is what I've done, so I just didn't tell him. I just couldn't tell. I just couldn't talk. I just couldn't tell.
Yeah. Do you think he kind of saved your life in some way at that point?
Do you know what? He took me to hospital and they gave me antibiotics. So I don't know what the hell was going on there. And he would come in every day and give me them, and I took them. So even though my body was like, no more tablets, like liver trying to recover, I just took them anyway. I was just so used to just going along with stuff. Yeah, in the end, it was my brother that put me in a cab and took me to my GP, because I wasn't even my GP weren't even in the area I was living, because I was all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the doctor that sorted me out in the end, and they did all the blood tests, and they said, you know, you're so lucky to be here. And I just was like, oh yeah, you think? I sort of didn't want to be, but you've dragged me back. But yeah, it was a really, really close call. Very close call. Yeah, no one even, you know, I don't even really know about it. I never told my dad about it ever.
I can't wait to people to see that in the book, because that information there will really help somebody. It really does.
Yeah.
So
otherwise, there was no point in me writing it.
Exactly. And by the way, like, it's so amazing. Everyone, please get this book when it comes out, because it actually, there's things in there already that I've read that it's helped me already. And I'm being
really, that's so, I love that.
I can tell you why at another time in the future. So Mark is the father of your two children. Okay. So you did mention the book that obviously,
I feel like too much too young. Like I don't want to like go like tell the whole story. Otherwise, no point reading about it. But I definitely look back and think too much too young. Like, you know, we were 24, we had a mortgage, we had a baby, we both had like city jobs, and it was a hell of a lot. Like I'm still proud of that decade that we had, but it was so much to manage, and God knows what I was bringing it to with all my, you know, I had anxiety I had long-term PTSD, and I didn't even know.
Wow.
I had no idea. I think I got diagnosed with that when I was in my early 30s. Because I just got so like sort of like desperate to sort of understand what the hell, and then I had to see a counsellor and stuff, and then I did all the thing, and then they told me, and I was like, huh?
That's 6 years after. That's 6 years after you had your first.
Yeah.
So
that was just bopping along with no idea, because when you come out of if you go through some sort of childhood trauma, it's never treated and never looked at. It's just there, stuck to you, just going along and whatever. So it came out in me like as that, and it's just.
That is mad, because you know, like, guys go, oh bloody hell, your hormones. So what's your like hormones? This, and go, oh, is it your hormones pad up a bit? And people just refer that, it must be hormones, Natasha. Like, why are you acting like this? Or what I'm saying is, there's things that were
100%,
and you didn't even
so
know.
Much going on all the time,
and you get tarnished with this miserable, moany, emotional, blah 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 blah. Why are you always like this? And now you can like back then, and also 5-6 years later, you're thinking, oh, that makes sense now, because somebody's helped me with that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with the kid's dad, you know, I sort of put him in the box of workaholic, because I just felt he was just never ever at home, like you know, a good person with a good heart, etc. But he also spent a decade with someone with complex PTSD, And he probably didn't know what the fuck either. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe he started working the males because he was like, wow, like I'm a young man and I don't know what with this vibe of this woman. You know, I just don't know. And then the thing is, I can never know what that experience is like for him because I can only like speak for myself.
Of course
But
you can.
maybe there was a reason that he was working 40-hour days.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just like, fight. Like we were never arguers.
No.
But we weren't communicators either. So it's almost just
people
as
say
bad.
sometimes not talking is, you know, people have an argument, they say, oh yeah, but arguments are healthy. And I'm like, really? But then you think not talking is actually a mind.
It's just
madness.
as bad. Like you need to talk to each other. But we didn't have the tools then.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you're doing all things without no social media, no information, no one really supporting you.
No support.
But what was great about back then is that how, you know, you got your own place, you had a mortgage, you're working really hard, and that's what I was going back to what you were saying earlier when you talk about your kids and stuff, like you talk about success and stuff. To go back to work 10 weeks after having a child, now thinking about what you went through, God, you should be like so proud of yourself then, because you could have gone, like, bear in mind, we talked a little bit about your history. You know what? That is amazing. Like to think that you got through that.
I was used to that pace.
Exactly. But that's not normal. That pace isn't normal. But you felt it was normal because I've got kids. I've got money. I've got to do this and do that. Because that was your inner self going, that's what I should be doing. But like most people, like going,
you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You're a fighter, and this is where we come on to your entrepreneur bit of your business in a little while. But so obviously things didn't work out, unfortunately. But it does sound like the kids were still a priority. Would that make sense in regards to their upbringing? So even though you guys didn't get on and didn't be broke up, were the kids? How were the kids when that happened? Were they? How were they?
They were so young, and I think, I think it's tough for me to talk about how it was for them because I think that's their story.
Sure.
And they're young men, and I've got so much respect for them and their space, and and anyone. I would never speak for anyone else.
Yeah, sure, okay.
I feel like.
Well, look, they're still seeing their dad. They're still seeing you. They're still. So that, you know what? That's the answer. That's the answer to your question.
It's like, you know, it's good.
And that's the answer to the question, really. Is at the end of the day, yes, but things are tough, and I've been through it when people break up, and you just get on with it. But it's gutting because you want your mum and dad to be together forever. But that's life now.
I know.
But they're good though. At the end of the day, they love each other, and you've got great kids as well. By the way, you should be really proud of them. Get back into the machine. We go forward a bit further. And we're now into decade 3. Who is decade 3? And tell us a bit about decade 3 in the book.
A woman in her 30s, got 2 children, working, cracking on, doing all the thing, and meets back up with someone that an old friend from college, basically, and we always just had such a fun time together. And like we reconnected, and then we had a lot of fun, and then we made a lot of mess. The end. End.
Just have interest. How did you
meet back up?
How did they pick back up? How did that happen then?
Friends reunite. Can you imagine? Retro. Yeah, Friends Reunite. Do you remember that website?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but I was about to say, was it actually Friends Reunite? Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was like that was the first.
Friends Reunited, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Something like
Friends Reunited.
Yeah. And where did you meet?
What back in the day?
Yeah,
college.
College, right? Okay, right. And what was good?
We had a little gang, and we had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
And then we met back up as like 30-year-olds, and then we acted like 17-year-olds for about 2-3 years.
Is that because that was the happy times that you guys remembered?
Yeah,
Did you sort of
and I felt like I'd forgotten how to be young, and like he just made me. He had such a lot of light-hearted, burdenless energy, and I had the opposite. I felt like burdened down with life, and just had so much on my plate all the time. So I liked being around him because he just like. You know, he would lift me up, and then when we actually just tried to get together and do the actual adult thing, it just did not work out.
Right. But Joe, that's quite common because your friendship, banter, and kind of like your relationship as friends doesn't necessarily mean you're a good couple, right? Because
that's it.
That's it. So,
that is exactly it.
Yeah, and actually and sometimes you don't want to risk that friendship. But bear in mind, it doesn't sound like you were friends every day because your friends every night brought you back somehow. But I think that's quite a common thing. People go back and think, do you remember when we were 17? Do you remember we went to the Blue Orchid in Croydon?
I've been to the Blue Orchid as well.
Yes, have
I actually think we just got, haven't we all? I think we just got carried away, I think.
Yeah. But do you have any regrets for that?
I try not to regret a single thing.
Yeah, because it sounds like you like.
I mean, what can I do? Like, you have to laugh at like the human experience at times because we're all messy. We're just trying to get it right and trying to, like, not make too much of a mess.
Funny. What was the most funniest thing in the book that you mentioned, or anything that is like really worth mentioning about that you can look back and it's quite a funny story that you want to like share?
I feel like I'm going to have to move country, but I'll tell the story anyway. We had gone to Rome for an engagement that I pushed. I pushed it, me. So I just hint in and doing all that shit that you do. So, my boyfriend at that time took me to Rome and we were there for about 4 or 5 days. And on the last night, he proposed to me at the Trevi Fountain. But I changed my fucking mind while I was there. So, I know, because I'm unstable. So at that time, and then I got myself all panicky and in a state and stuff like that. So by the time he proposed, I was like, I don't want to. So we were by the fountain and there were tourists. I know, it's ridiculous. It gets worse as well. And I've just gone, so he's gone down on one knee, done the ring out, there's tourists around us, the fountain's lit up, all the thing, and I've just gone, get off your knees, get up, nope. And I've started just bustling away, just like flee the scene. So the poor guy is just like, what the fuck? Like, I basically planted the seed in his mind and then just went, nope. So my bad, but we've walked away. It's a bit like being in Trafalgar Square, being around there. It's really busy. We've walked away and then we've literally tried to have a conversation, but it was just too awkward and painful and messy. And I didn't even know what I was doing. And then we went back to our very nice Hilton hotel, slept with our backs to each other, willing the morning to come so we could just get out and get away. And then, so we're on the plane. And he's got the ring box in his hands and he's clicking it, open and shut. And he's like, oh my God, my dad's going to be waiting for us like at the airport. And I've told all the family that I was proposing. So I was like, give me the ring. I'll put it on. Let's just be engaged. He was like, no fucking way. And I was like, I can't take the pressure. Give it to me. I'll just be engaged, because he had a nice big family and they did normal stuff like celebrate. And I had the idea of facing them all. And so I was like, oh my God, I'll just be engaged. And he was like, no, you will not. You're not having the ring. So I was just like, oh my God, what we're going to do? So I concocted up this idea. Honestly, this was the most, I felt like I was in a movie. I said to him, right, this is what we'll do. When we're walking out, I'm going to drop my passport and give you like a little, like half a minute delay. And I want you to get in your dad's ear and just say, I didn't propose. It gets him off the hook. He doesn't have to face all the family, which I think there was a bit of pressure from them, just like normal pressure. And then I can just also act like I don't know any different and we don't have to face the fallout of what's happened. So that's what he did. And we carried it off as well. So
wow.
We did it. And it was so strong. So then we had to sit in his car all the way from like Gatwick back home to Kent. All three of us trying to act normal. So that we were just talking about the sights and stuff. Like, oh yeah, what were the sights like? So the dad's thinking, oh my God, what's happened? He hasn't proposed. And then he's thinking, oh my God, I did, but I've lied about it. And I'm like, I'm pretending I don't know anything. And it's just like, oh, it's like a pressure cooker in the car. And then when we got back to his family's house, we had to do the same thing again. He had to get in like a minute before me because there was probably fucking 25 relations in there, bouquets of flowers, and just be like, flowers down, everyone. Like, there's nothing. I didn't end up doing it just to spare him, sort of thing.
Wow.
Oh, holy mother of God. It was actually horrific.
I've got questions now. So first question was, what would have happened if basically they'd organised a party on like
And there
in
probably wasn't. There probably
a
was a
function
party.
room like that day or something.
I saw a bouquet disappearing behind a door that got closed.
Oh wow!
There probably was a buffet. There's probably sausage rolls. There probably was.
Okay, do you know what? So obviously, I'm a man, right? Put my man's hat on here and think about
I feel so bad.
being in Rome. Obviously, you know.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, what was the reaction around you? How many people knew, other than being on one knee, how many people knew what was going on at this point?
I don't know because Rome was spinning around my head at that time. I couldn't see a thing. Like I nearly went blind with stress. So, and then I just exited really quickly. So I do not know.
Do you know what? I don't think I could get up. I'm not in the best to get up.
You could have just got in the fountain. If it was me, I would have just got in the fountain and just.
I would have. I struggled to get down on one knee anyway. For the sake of to get back up on one knee, I think I know. I probably would have. I probably would have pretended I was doing my laces up. I was carrying on doing my laces up. I know I've done the.
I feel so bad.
Do you know what though?
This is so interesting because I've never heard it from a man's perspective. I mean, I know it's funny, but it isn't funny at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm laughing, but I felt like the most horrific person to walk the earth.
You can.
I can now. It's like,
okay,
it's like 20 years ago, but still, it was.
So, if you hadn't hinted about doing it, do you think you would have done it in Rome still?
No, probably not.
This is the thing, like, so if
probably
you, because sometimes you feel like,
fault.
I'm saying, so sometimes you're like, come on, it's been a little while, I think you should do it. And then, did you also hint about like, I think I'm a 7G, by the way, just have interest on my wedding ring, just in case.
Yeah, dude. Can I just tell you one more thing to add to that? The actual audacity of 30-year-old me, because that was in the January when my birthday is. I then proposed to him in February. Can you just digest that right now?
Wow. Okay. All right. So where were you then? Were you in the Blue Orchid, or where were you when you did this? Where did you propose them?
On my sofa.
Okay, romantic.
Very classy.
Yeah.
I wrote "Marry Me" on a white T-shirt, and then I had like a little check shirt over the top, and I popped the buttons and went bam. And that's how I proposed.
Okay. Just quickly then. So obviously you guys didn't break up, which probably most people may have done because of of what happened. So
we had a very unhealthy attachment to each other.
So you found a way for over the next month to kind of find a way
find our way back to each other.
Did you live together at that point?
No.
Okay. So on that day, like, how many days did you have time to think about how you were going to propose, and why did you do it in February?
Valentines, obviously.
Oh God. Okay. Right. Okay, right. Okay.
Don't you wish you knew me 20 years ago?
It's amazing.
This
is why, guys. By the way, this is why you should get the book, because this is just like 5% of what Natasha's life's about, and she's been very. She's only giving you a little bit of snippets here, but there's a lot more details. This is why you should get it, because I'm laughing at that. You can imagine, this is a lot of bit about the ups and downs, and like this is the bits where you learn, I guess. But this is funny because I think a lot of people can relate to this, Natasha. By the way, a boy or a girl thinking, should I do this? Why do I do it? And what would I do after this situation? But if you again,
I think I was impulsive. I think I was impulsive.
What could you done differently? Do you think?
What I was always trying to achieve was feeling like I was part of something, or part of a family, or like togetherness. Always trying to find it, always trying to look for it. And it's not the right motivation. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like who that person was or love who that person was, but 20 years ago, I was so desperate to not be alone, actually, and just like be with someone and be part of something. And that actually deep down felt really inadequate.
Yeah.
So I was just probably like a little leech that just wanted to, can I join your family, please? Like proper orphan Annie. And that's that was really just insecure person, just didn't want to be by myself. So it was like I would not making sensible emotional decisions because I didn't want to be on my own.
Yeah, no, again, people can relate to that. How long were you together for?
Yeah. So I think we managed about 3 years or 3-4 years, something like that.
Okay.
Until we made an absolute shit show of it all.
Right, and how do you mind me asking how it ended? What did you have to go propose again somewhere in another Venice or something?
I think. Oh God. Well, we had a wedding in Vegas. No, we didn't. And then we got an annulment, and then I proposed. No, that's not what happened.
Runaway bride.
Oh my God, that's literally
You should
in
have
my
done
own
that
life.
just to add to that
Should have
story.
just called it Runaway Bride. But so it ended quite horribly, actually,
Right.
because we tried to live together. And then what happens when you've got like issues like I had, which were anxiety and the PTSD and stuff like that? You can't hide when you're with someone 24/7. Whereas when we used to see each other like at weekends and a bit of stuff like that, I could have like my game face on, but
Yeah.
really I was hiding who I was.
Right.
And I found it so living with someone, I found it so stressful because I had so much of all this other stuff that was going on that I was trying to hide.
Yeah.
That just my mental health just like went downhill.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and it's
and that's when it was in my 30s that I first got the PTSD thing, because I
Right.
went to counsellor and I was just like, something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is. I can't work it out. I'm just something that I just don't know what is going on, but something is wrong. And then I had to have this assessment. And then when they said that to me, I was just like what do you mean? Like, I thought that's what happens when what people get and they come back from war. I couldn't relate to that as just like a normal not a soldier sort of thing. And turns out you can. Turns out you can have PTSD if you haven't been to Iraq. News to me. And there's a lot of research gone into that now because I read a lot about it and I follow some accounts and stuff. So yeah, it turns out you can have that.
Do you think if you knew what you knew now, then in regards to like what you had, I don't know very very much and exactly what it means, but is there anything that you could have taken or had or bad to deal with that maybe have helped in that situation?
So much stuff. Like, I'm so glad that it's like social media is not always a good thing, but obviously it's got its negatives. But there's so much information out now, and there was nothing in that time for me. So I just truly feel like I was just stumbling around in the dark.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Because like
zero clue about anything. And it was only finding my way like to a therapist's office that saved my life probably. Right.
So we're now into decade 4. And by the way, what's the name of decade 3 in the book?
Luke.
Right, so Luke.
Basically, I've called them Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which is out the Bible. How apt?
No, I like it. So we're now on to John. So with decade 4, tell us a little bit about John and
ending on a high. Yeah, basically, I feel like don't get into relationships when you're feeling low.
Yeah,
I feel like don't. You're just throwing yourself to the wolves, and I think that's what happened to me with him. Like I felt low down on myself and stuff, and not enough work done. And he swooped in like proper James Bond style. Like I literally thought he was James Bond.
Really? Why is that?
Well, because he was successful and flash and good looking and like, had an expensive car and a big expensive house. And I let myself get seduced into the material side of things, I think, because I myself just felt like a failure at that time. So I put him on a pedestal. And then when I actually peeled back the layers and got to know the person, not that attractive.
Yeah.
Not that attractive. And just same thing. Like I just kept just repeating like certain patterns, like controlling and just really manipulative. And that's the most I've ever cried, actually, was in that relationship.
Right.
Just like really fell in love. And then it's almost like he knew, she's fully in love. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let the games begin.
Yeah.
And then I've already got a nervous system that's like been pretty battered. I've got anxiety, I've got a lot of anxiety. I've got the PTSD, and I just got him triggering me like constantly. And oh my God, it's just like honeymoon period, maybe for like a year, 18 months, and then just hell.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it was my belief was that it was a big slap. Like I haven't got a definitive religion or God or thing that I can like put it in a box. See, I just say universe because I don't really know how else to put it. But I feel like the universe was like, listen, will you wake up? You didn't wake up the last time. So I'm really going to slap you now. And and that's what he was. He was a big slap, really big slap.
How long ago was that?
To wake me up.
How long ago was that?
That was all done and dusted. Like by the time I was sort of 41.
Okay, so it was quite early the decade four then. It was
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, real wake up call. And yeah, I just feel like I do believe that if you don't learn the lesson, it just keeps coming back around.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming back around. And I was just stuck in this cycle of just doing the same things and the same like wolves in and stuff like that. So I feel like, I know it's not very nice to say, but I feel like I got sent someone really nasty to wake me up and kick me up my arse, because that's what happened.
Thank you so much for sharing a lot of deep stuff in the book, but also some fun stuff. But by the way, people, when it does come out, check out the socials and stuff. This book's going to be amazing. There's a lot more funny things. There's also some stuff that we all experience, but it's one book that you should definitely buy when it comes out. So, by the way, you should be very, very proud of that. It's not easy to write something like that. Cool. So, I want to talk about your business that you've now set up, and going back to the entrepreneur, which you've sort of, without realising, I guess you were like a little mini entrepreneur throughout the years. I think you mentioned about you working, and then also you had this sort of beauty thing kind of going on the sides. What made you decide to stop working in London, take that big gamble and then set up your beauty company? What was the process to that? And when did you decide to flip the switch and move to be your own boss, basically, and run your own company?
I think I fell into beauty when I was on maternity leave and stuff like that. And it's not that I was massively interested in it, but once you have kids, it's about what works around them. So it was something that I could work from home and do bits. So that happens kind of accidentally. And then I started doing lash extensions because I got bored of doing people's feet, also gross. And I was like, what else can I do? This is just not hitting the buttons. And I'd gone to a beauty show, and this was 14 years ago, and they had the lash extensions there. And I was like, this is very clever. Did the course within a week. And I think I caught it right at the beginning when it just first came out. And then it just snowballed and snowballed. And I think the motivation behind it is that it's just, I really wanted something that was my own. It's I just wanted something that was mine.
Yeah,
really. So I think when people start their own businesses and do all their own things, everyone's got their own motivation.
Yeah,
and it's all different, isn't it? Like mine was just like independence is so important to me because it makes me feel secure.
Yeah,
it makes me feel secure, and security makes me feel calm, and I prefer to be in that space than any other space, really. So my motivation was independence.
And when did you decide to do it?
I was 30. I worked this out the other week. I was 36, and yeah, I think I had so many clients then that I was overworking because I was doing my city job and then building a business on the side. And obviously that's scary. So until I just had too much work, then I flipped it.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I'm going to do it. But I was terrified. I literally always think I'm going to be homeless because I've been homeless. You just don't lose the fear. I've had times when I just don't know where I'm going to live. So security and independence is just like my core.
Yeah, that's a great attitude.
Just really, really scary. But it got to the point where I was just so overworked, I was practically hallucinating. Like I remember driving back on the motorway with my kids in the car, and I was saying, "Oh my God, what is that man doing on the side of the road?" And then, as we got closer, it was just a sign. Tired. I was just so tired. So I was like, "Okay, now's the time," because you're getting so tired, it's getting bloody dangerous, starting to hallucinate. But so I felt really, really sure, but it was still terrifying. Like in the beginning, I worked whatever anyone wanted.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've got structure. So if someone's like, "Oh, can I come on Sunday at 1?" I'll be like, "Yeah, sure." Like, whereas now I work a set 5-day week, and I've got set hours, and I've got a proper. My self-employed friend at that time said to me, "What are you doing?" She really helped me. My actual lash girl, Claire, she says, the whole point of going self-employed was for you to have some control.
Yeah.
And you've got no control. You're just working all hours, all days. You've got no structure. And I was like, shit, yeah, you're right. Like, I need to. So yeah, I've had like quite a lot of guidance and help from friends and stuff.
If you just give any like quick advice, maybe like 30 seconds, what advice would you give to somebody that maybe is like you 13 years ago, whatever it was, that were kind of like doing 2 jobs or really wanted to do it? What quick advice would you give somebody to make that decision?
I think focus and just also keep away from distractions, because nowadays we've just got too much social media.
Yeah.
And then when you look at stuff and people seem really far along, it can give you a feeling of like, oh, actually, it's too overwhelming. So I feel like keep away from all of that period and just stay focused on yourself.
Yeah.
Stay focused on yourself, and just and get advice, because you need to keep things realistic. You need to you don't want to give up secure money that's coming in too early, and then there's too much pressure on you to make that other thing work. Because I built the other business up first before I left. Like, I would say that to my sons, if they weren't happy at work, I'd fully support them, but you don't leave one job unless you've got another.
I did mention this at the start of the podcast, and this isn't in your book, and also it's something that I thought was quite good to talk about because you're passionate in music. There was a freak accidental way that you became a radio presenter in some sort of way.
I mean, I feel like I presented like jack shit, but we had a good banter. What happened was, like, My Soul is a radio station called the Mac's second radio station, I think. God, it's probably not even. He's probably had 20. Sorry if you have. My Soul. I just kept winning competitions. So that's how it started. Like, I kept winning everything. I felt like I was the only listener. Like, I only got one listener. Like, how come I keep winning all these tickets? Like, tickets to Beverly Night, tickets this, tickets to that. Eventually, I built up almost like a friendship banter thing with the Saturday morning DJ. And we had a really good spark, like a really good humour spark. And then I was joking with him, and I'd said, "Oh, I'll come in and make the tea," and he was like, "Yeah, come in." And then I just didn't pay any attention to it, but he messaged me and said, "No, actually, come in." So I was like, "What?" It's like a red letter day. I did go in to the studio for the day, and I felt like a 5-year-old on a school trip, and I just sat there, sort of like a bit of a melt, like, "Oh, look at this radio station." But he was just like, "There's your mic, there's your desk. When that light goes on, we're live, done." And oh my God, it was just like terrifying. But we had a good spark together, and we had a lot of fun. And at the end of the show, he just said to me, "Same time next week." And I just went with it. I was like, okay. But at that time, this probably goes back to a bit of my sort of spiritual beliefs. But at that time, like, I was feeling really sad. I feel like I'm sad. I'm always sad. But I actually did lose my brother. Like, he died in his mid-40s, and it was such a like devastating time. And I was just on automatic in life, because I've got kids, I've got a job, I've got a business, you've got to crack on. But I felt like I was hibernating, because I was just, feeling so sad and stuff. And my belief is that situation came along just to pull me out.
Yeah.
I don't believe I was ever meant to stay there. I was never meant to be a radio presenter.
No.
But it's not like I was depressed, because I wasn't. I was just very heartbroken. And I feel like that situation came along. It was a gift.
Yeah.
And I remember being in a boardroom, sitting with Gould Mark and the Saturday morning DJ. And I remember the day that Kiss FM first started, I listened. I know the first song they played. We used to steal the posters out of the tube station. We were obsessed. And I was sitting looking at him, and he was mostly telling us off, because we were just always mucking about.
Yeah.
And he was reading the riot act, and he was like, this. And I was looking at him, and I had a proper out-of-body experience. I was like, this is Gould Mark from Kiss FM. I'm in a boardroom with him. How did I even get here? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I'm here. I don't know why. I don't know how I got here, but this is all fucking weird. And that's what makes me feel like it was just a gift.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
Makes it,
It was never meant to be forever. I tried to do the weather. I was terrible. It made everyone's toes.
Show us how you did the weather. Come on, tell us how you did it.
Like a robot, mate.
Right.
Like a robot. There's definitely music that links us all, I feel. Took me to my first club. When I was 16, he took me to the Dun Cow in Old Kent Road. And I had one Coke and didn't know jack shit about anything. And there's just the love affair of music was born. And he snuck me and my best friend in, because he's just like a big personality, knew everyone and stuff like that. And we just hid in the mosh pit on the dance floor, trying not to look 12. And we were like, wow, club life. Like, wow. Like, we were best night of our lives. I think we only had enough money to get a Coke each. And we went home, walked home, Old Kent Road back to Canberra about 2 a.m. And we were just like, oh my God, like what? We're just falling into this whole new world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that music is a really deep and strong link between us all, I feel.
I want to come on to that now again, because actually, you know, that's the one thing that somehow brought me and you together, right? Because
it's so crazy.
we've been in the same place at the same time. Obviously, it's 5,000 people there, so it's not like, you know, even though I'm a catch and very like, you know, model walking around clubs and stuff, people should see me.
Same,
exactly, I'm surprised there wasn't a camera wherever you went, so I'll see like a bright light over you when you go out. But anyway, so the reason why, obviously, you talk about music and stuff and how I found you, or we came together, was that your kind of love for music, and your love for music also has become a kind of a voice for music, and being the kind of like, and we joke about it, you do to yourself saying, I'm the voice of the people. I know, the voice of the people. Someone said it's kind of like caught on a little bit, which is why I use that as a bit of a narrative at the beginning. But I think actually, from what I've seen and what I watch, there's a big element of a truth of that. How did that all kind of start, and how did you get that name? That's not a name, but people sort of refer to you as the voice.
I think it was just a bit fun. I was just doing these like videos and just having a bit of a laugh, really. And yeah, my belief is that we've all got like the inner kid and the inner teenager. And I've just disconnected from my own one for so long, because that is what happens. So it's like bang on about it, but it's just all I know. But if you go through childhood trauma, you get just disconnected from yourself, and then it's a real job finding your way back to yourself. So yeah, now I feel like I'm sort of in one piece. Like I'm the mothership, and on board is the teenager and the child. I need to let them live and let them breathe, because there was a time when they just couldn't. And so sometimes when I want to do something that's just that I get the compulsion of doing something like random or silly or whatever, I just give myself the permission to do it, and there's never any rhyme or reason. So it started off with me just sort of taking a piss really about being in Ibiza, sort of being middle-aged and just trying to survive. Whole experience, like out 4 nights on a trot, this, that, like the heat and all these things. So I just start doing like these funny little videos, but bottom line is, like, it still scared me, because I probably am like still I'm probably always going to be a little bit sort of like vulnerable to criticism because of my past and stuff, but also was just like wanted to rebel and be like, no, I'm allowing my teenager and my kids to live their lives, and then when they start getting a bit out of hand, I can just rein them back in. So that's how it started. It was just like a bit of a laugh, and I gave myself permission to do it. I got like, you know, slated or not, but
and again, the reason I'm saying this because, again, I didn't know you 2 months ago, right? I didn't know you at all. You know, we didn't know each other. We got people we sort of know, similar friends, but again, there was no connection to us both, right? But I wanted to do a podcast with somebody that's a little bit more like, this is what life is about. This is somebody who's a general, normal person. And at that time, I didn't know you had a book or write a book. I didn't know really much about you at all. The thing that I found that there was the first connection was I found you very, very infectious. I've got to say, people that don't know you at all, that the things that people said about you are absolutely amazing, right? Some of the words they used, right, was, I found, like, before I met you, I was like, wow, she's lovely. Like, she seems to be a nice person. And every word, people that, again, are not really close to you, by the way, people that just know who you are, said exactly the same thing. And that's when you know somebody is all right. Right? And they're all right. So I know you're not going to sit there and go, I know, but I'm just going to say what I know, because I know whereas people don't sort of like to go, oh yeah, I hear that all the time. But you generally are a nice person, right? And I am so happy that I've somehow found a way to go back into this sort of archive of yours, and to you to share this, because it's a story that people can relate to. Actually, do you know what? You're 50 years old, and you should be bloody proud of yourself. Like, I'm not sure anyone tells you that, but if someone don't know you, God,
Oh,
you should be so proud of yourself. And yes, there's more there's more bumps in the road coming. And just on the music side of things, I know you're an added fan and you're a follower of like Houseworks and Clockwork Orange and
My House is another one that I
and
love.
My House as well. What is it about those events, and also what is it about the people that go that kind of keeps you being the mental age of 21 and still want to still go out and have fun and enjoy yourself?
Oh, it's just such a nice place to be. I mean, I've been calling it youth club for ages. It's like going to the youth club, going down youth club. And at our age, being able to go somewhere sociable where loads of people, it's quite rare actually. And I'm not the type of person who would go to the local pub and get to know the local or whatever. It's just not my scene. And but it's to have like that sense of community, and you get that feeling. I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure. I maybe didn't have that feeling, so maybe I need it now. Maybe. Like when you were a teenager and you was excited to go out and you didn't know what boys were going to be there, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to wear?
Yeah.
Like we're all getting that again.
Yeah.
It's so special.
Yeah.
And even just to be able to go in somewhere and have someone come up to you and go, oh my god, and hug you.
Yeah.
What is not to love
No.
about that?
It sounds like it's a bit of a kind of like a family that sort of
It's
like
massively.
you get kind of go to, you'll get the same sort of hardcore people go, then you get other people that might go to one of those 3 or 4 and stuff. But it sounds like you've kind of created a little bit of a, oh yeah, how you doing? Remember, blah, blah, blah.
Loads of people have. They've all got it's like a big rave family. I know it sounds a bit easy, but it's a fact.
So I feel very fortunate that I know you, because you're like a slight little mini celebrity of those events, aren't you? Like,
absolutely not.
It's beautiful to meet. So obviously now decade 5 is about to happen.
Looming.
Looming. So like again, if we were to get in the back of that car, we're going to go forward now. The next sort of 5-10 years. What does sort of success and happiness, and what does Natasha want to see in the next 5-10 years? Again, like if you could sort of like map out your journey a little bit, what do you want to see?
I'm just itching to travel now. Not like in a backpack, go to another country. I couldn't be away from the kids for too long, but I would definitely do like a mini Europe tour. Something like that.
Rome?
I started thinking about, I'm not fucking going to Rome.
Go back to the same place. Go, by the way, mate.
I'm not going to Rome. Rome's been done. Let's not do Rome.
Okay.
But I feel like it might be a second book. I was thinking about doing 12 weekends in 12 months. Yeah, doing 12 Europe weekends in 12 months and then writing that up. So yeah, maybe I'm starting to mentally prep for that, because that takes so much organising. Okay. So that might be next year now.
Obviously, your son's now 26 and 21. So they are now getting to a similar age to you where you were when you first started having children and stuff. And is that something that you're looking forward to, going from mum now to sort of like maybe potentially nan? Does that excite you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Any friends that have got like little ones, I'm obsessed.
Right.
Just obsessed with all the babies. And I just love being around like that energy as well. So I cannot wait.
Yeah.
I mean, I can wait.
Yeah.
I actually think, can you give me 1 decade?
Yeah.
Because
decade 6 is going to be decade 6.
5.
Decade 5, okay.
5 to have some adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm quite a committed nan.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I haven't really done the travel thing. So I want to get that out of my system, and then I can be a proper nan. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I'm not here that week.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that nan. I want to be around.
I can imagine you'd be a great nan, by the way. I think we were talking about this the other day about you. I think you're going to be, spoil them. I think you're going to be amazing. Again, there's things that you've learned and been through to see what a nan should be like, or a mum stroke nan. So I think you'll be absolutely amazing. And I feel like probably your sons, are they feeling a slight element of pressure? Or they again, doesn't sound like you're giving it to them, but because you want to still do things. So like, Yeah.
They're on their
Okay.
own paths, and if I ever be like, oh, blah blah blah, they just
Yeah.
laugh.
Okay.
They just
Great.
yeah.
But you know what? Like
I
you say,
won't
everything should be
interrupt
organic. Everything should be organic.
interrupt their journey. They're going
Yeah.
to do what they do when they do it, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it should become naturally and stuff, and when it's ready to be. And you'll be ready because you are a fantastic person. So, is there anything else you want to share? Where can people follow you on social media, and also for your business, and for you personally, and for your updates? Where do people go to find you?
Our Facebook is Natasha Anne, and if you want lash extensions, it's a lash thing. On the Instagram, it's just my business is on Instagram.
Okay, yeah,
so, and
cool.
then my silly stuff is on Facebook. So yeah, it's a lash thing on Instagram, and then Natasha Anne is just quite a lot of waffle.
Well, listen, that is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this. I know it's not been something that's very easy to talk about. And bear in mind, I've got to say, on a serious note, like for you to share some of the stuff you've done, I know it's not easy. And you did it, and you did it in a really amazing way. And people can relate to it, even though it sometimes feel like you're being down and negative. It's not. People like to hear that. So thank you for sharing that, and also sharing some of the fun parts of what you've had to go through, which again can look back at it and again, like I say, well, really proud of what you've done, and people should and please finish this book quickly, because I think everyone now is going to want us to read it soon. So hopefully it'll be out this year, maybe if all goes well.
Yeah, that is the goal this year, because I can't move on to something else unless I finish the last thing. So I've got to get it finished if I want to move on.
Definitely, I can't wait to see the last bit of it and to hear what happens at because it's like watching the film, isn't it? I want to watch the end of the film. So good luck with the rest of that, and we will share this obviously on the podcast stuff and information I send out when it comes out. So